Hello Internet, I'm Hazel and today I'm going to be taking a look at the changes coming to Enhancement Shamans in Legion. I'll cover spell changes in pruning, the new talent tree, new animations, and the artifact weapon traits. The info you see in this video is current as of alpha build 21466 and is subject to change as development continues. The most major change to Enhancement Shamans in Legion is the shift to a new resource system, Maelstrom. You'll build Maelstrom through auto attacks and certain abilities and spend it to heal or do crushing damage. Let's start by going over the buttons we're going to lose and changes to the ones we get to keep. On the list of straight up pruned abilities we have Tremor Totem, Searing Totem, Magma Totem, and Earthbind Totem. Totemic Recall, Unleash Elements, Fire Nova, and Shamanistic Rage are all also done for. Several more buttons aren't quite getting pruned but are only found as a Resto or LE Shaman. Chain Lightning and Flame Shock are for Resto and LE Shamans only. Earth and Fire Elementals are Elemental Shaman only pets. Frost Shock is Elemental only. Grounding Totem is a PvP talent for Resto Shamans only. Healing Stream Totem and Healing Rain are for Resto Shamans only, but there's a talent we'll get to later that fills the Healing Rain role. A few spells that used to be baseline for us have been scooted onto the talent tree. Lightning Shield, Ascendance, and Capacitor Totem can all be found in your talents. Capacitor Totem's gotten a rename, but it's still there, I promise. If anyone's keeping count, that's 19 buttons lifted out of your spellbook. Let's talk about what's going to fill those spots. Astral Shift has been made baseline. This doesn't entirely make up for Shaman Rage being gone, but it's a good start. Your bars won't be completely empty. We're getting several new active baseline abilities in Legion. Rockbiter is a 10-yard range ability with no cooldown which deals some damage and generates Maelstrom. This is your all-purpose builder and you'll use it to fill globals in between bigger attacks. Flame Tongue is an instant ability, also with a 10-yard range, that enhances your weapons with fire for 16 seconds. While enhanced, your weapon attacks will deal additional fire damage. Flame Tongue has a 12-second cooldown and you'll want to track and maintain that buff. Frostbrand has no cooldown, consumes 20 Maelstrom, and enhances your weapons for 14 seconds. While enhanced, your attacks will slow the movement speed of your target by 50%. Despite their names, you can have both the Frostbrand and the Flame Tongue buffs active at the same time. While we're looking at the main rotation abilities, let's see how Storm Strike and Lava Lash fit in. Storm Strike consumes 40 Maelstrom, has a 16-second cooldown, and hits like a truck. It does roughly triple the damage of Rockbiter and should feel pretty weighty. Lava Lash costs 30 Maelstrom, has no cooldown, and does a less impressive amount of damage. Use Lava Lash to dump extra Maelstrom so you don't cap on it. Crash Lightning costs 20 Maelstrom, has a 6-second cooldown, and electrocutes all enemies in a shockwave-style cone attack. Hitting 2 or more targets with Crash Lightning will buff your weapons for 10 seconds, causing your Storm Strike and Lava Lash to also cleave all targets in front of you for 75% damage. This is basically how you're going to AoE now that you've lost Fire Nova. Doom Winds is your active artifact trait, which you'll get access to after completing your artifact questline. You can find it in the General tab of your spellbook, or drag it straight from the artifact trait interface. It causes all of your auto attacks to proc Wind Fury for 6 seconds, and increases the damage of Wind Fury by 400% for that time. Hidden in the back of your Legion spellbook are 2 shiny new passives. Stormlash causes your weapon enhanced attacks, meaning attacks with Frostbrand or Flame Tongue active, to have a chance to buff up to 2 allies with Stormlash for 8 seconds, causing their attacks to deal extra nature damage. They probably won't notice and neither will you, but it's the thought that counts. Stormbringer gives your attacks a chance to reset the cooldown of Storm Strike and cause the next one to cost half the Maelstrom and trigger no cooldown. Considering how hard Storm Strike hits, this proc feels very satisfying. A couple of our old spells are seeing some adjustments to watch out for. Feral Spirits will generate Maelstrom instead of healing you, so don't pop those and wonder why you're still dying horribly. Healing Surge costs Maelstrom and is instant. If you're flat out of Maelstrom, it will consume mana instead, but also gets a cast time. Hex has a 30-second cooldown, down from 45. Ghost Wolf no longer has the speed glyph effect available, so it's always just a 30% speed boost. It will also prevent your movement speed from being reduced below 100%, which is nice. We'll still be top tier for running through the dumb fog spouts in Blackwing Lair. The talent tree is getting basically redone, and we're losing almost all of the Warlord's talents in the process. Nature's Guardian, Stone Bulwark Totem, Frozen Power, Call of the Elements, Totemic Persistence, Totemic Projection, Elemental Mastery, Echo of the Elements, Rushing Streams, Ancestral Guidance, Conductivity, Unleashed Fury, Primal Elementalist, Elemental Blast, Elemental Fusion, Storm Elemental Totem, and Liquid Magma are all gone. So yeah, pretty much all of it. Next, let's go over the talent tree as it stands in Legion. Something to keep in mind is that you can easily switch talents without needing to spend gold or tomes or anything, so you can shuffle things around as much as you want. At level 15, we pick from Windsong, Hot Hand, and Boulder Fist. Wind Song is another weapon enhancement in the style of Flame Tongue and Frostbrand on a 45-second cooldown. It'll enhance your weapons with wind for 15 seconds, increasing your attack speed by 15%. Pair that up with Doom Winds for some hummingbird speed wind furying. Hot Hand gives your melee attacks with Flame Tongue active a chance to proc a free lava launch that does 100% increased damage. Boulder Fist replaces Rockbiter, generates twice the Maelstrom, and has 2 charges with a 6-second recharge time. It deals roughly 50% more damage than Rockbiter and enhances your weapons for 10 seconds. While enhanced, your crit chance is increased by 10% and all damage you do is buffed by 5%. At level 30, we pick between Rainfall, Feral Lunge, and Windrush Totem. Rainfall is an instant cast AoE heal that you drop on the ground. Rainfall will heal up to 6 allies over 10 seconds, and the duration is extended by Storm Strikes and Lava Lashes. I found myself using this while questing to stabilize my health during heavy damage. Feral Lunge is an 8 to 25 yard range charge that leaps you to your target and deals damage. It has a 30-second cooldown and made me feel kind of like a feral druid. Windrush Totem is a new ability in the spirit of Windwalk. You place it with a target reticle, and any allies who pass within 10 yards of it while it's active will gain a 60% sprint for 5 seconds. Windrush Totem lasts for 15 seconds and sounds like a strong tool to use for raid movement. At level 45, we choose from Lightning Surge Totem, Earth Grab Totem, and Voodoo Totem. Lightning Surge Totem is a renamed capacitor totem that explodes after only 3 seconds, down from 5. That should make it a bit easier to pull off in PvP, and also more useful for controlling adds in a PvE environment. Earth Grab Totem hasn't changed from its WoD version, but is a more valuable choice now that Earthbind has been pruned. Voodoo Totem summons a totem at a target location which instantly hexes all enemies within 8 yards on a 30-second cooldown. Damage or leaving the area will remove the effect, so don't expect anyone to keep ribbiting for very long. It replaces Hex, and it's pretty much inferior to Lightning Surge Totem in every way. At level 60, we choose between Lightning Shield, Ancestral Swiftness, and Sundering. Lightning Shield surrounds you for an hour and has a chance to deal damage to enemies that hit you or are hit by you. Ancestral Swiftness passively increases your haste and attack speed by 10%. Given how important melee-triggered procs are, this is going to be the default choice. Sundering costs 60 Maelstrom and has a 40-second cooldown. It deals heavy damage in a line in front of you and knocks enemies to the side. This might see some very niche use in PvP or the odd raid fight, but it's hard to justify not taking Ancestral Swiftness. At level 75, we see Tempest, Overcharge, and Landslide. Tempest causes your Stormbringer proc to affect the next 2 Storm Strikes up from 1, letting you chain together quite a few of them. Overcharge causes your Lightning Bolt to consume 60 Maelstrom but do 1500% more damage and gives you an 8-second cooldown. 1500% sounds insane, but it's important to know that without this talent, Lightning Bolt deals the wimpiest damage you have ever seen. It's basically a throwing knife. Landslide causes your Rockbiter or Boulder Fist to grant you 20% attack power for 10 seconds. You should be able to maintain 100% uptime on that buff, so your talent choice here depends on if you prefer buff juggling or procs. At level 90, we get Crashing Storm, Hailstorm, and Empowered Stormlash. Crashing Storm causes Crash Lightning to also electrify the ground it strikes, dealing damage to enemies within it over 6 seconds. This will be good for when you have cleaving needs. Hailstorm causes your Frostbrand buff to also grant you damage, adding some single target frost damage onto your weapon's attacks. Empowered Stormlash causes your Stormlash to buff 3 allies up from 2 and deal 30% additional damage. You can proc Stormlash on yourself, so this does help your damage as well. At level 100, we pick from Ascendance, Fury of Air, and Earth and Spike. Ascendance hasn't changed much, and it'll also generate 4 Maelstrom per second while active. Fury of Air creates an 8-yard vortex of wind around you, which deals damage to enemies and slows them. Fury of Air has no cooldown, but costs Maelstrom to maintain and seems to have really low damage. It might be nice as appealing utility for PvP, but probably isn't worth giving up a damage talent for. Earth and Spike summons a big rocky spike under an enemy, dealing good damage to them and increasing the damage you do to that target by 10% for 10 seconds. Earth and Spike costs 30 Maelstrom and has a 20-second cooldown, so it fills a more consistent damage roll than Ascendance. For an artifact weapon, Enhancement Shamans will seek out the Doom Hammer with the Fury of the Stone Mother held in the offhand. The following artifact traits are unlocked as you gain artifact power in Legion. Doom Winds is your active ability, and you'll get access to this when you finish the initial artifact questline. Don't forget to put this on your bars, it's good. Hammer of Storms increases your Storm Strike damage. Gathering Storms causes targets hit with Crash Lightning to increase the damage of your next Storm Strike. Wind Strikes gives you 10% attack speed when Storm Fury procs. Raging Storms causes your Storm Fury proc to also buff the damage of Storm Strike by 50%. Spiritual Healing buffs your Healing Surge by 30%. Gathering of the Maelstrom lets your Rockbiter generate more Maelstrom. Spirit of the Maelstrom generates you 15 Maelstrom every 2 seconds while you're in Ghost Wolf and also in combat. Weapons of the Elements buffs the damage of Flame Tongue, Rock Biter, and Frostbrand by 10%. Forged in Lava increases the damage of Lava Lash by 10%. Storm Flurry gives Storm Strike a 30% chance to deal an extra version of itself for 40% damage. That can chain off of itself, which is going to make Storm Fury a bit silly. Unleash Doom gives your Storm Strike a chance to proc extra damage in the form of Molten Spikes or Shards of Lightning. Doom Wolves imbues your feral spirits with the elements, granting them an extra unique ability depending on the element. Elemental Healing causes you to heal for 30% of your max health over 15 seconds when you use Astral Shift. Surge of the Elements increases the damage of your weapon enhanced attacks by 10%. Alpha Wolf causes your feral spirit wolves to cleave when you use Crash Lightning with them active. Doom Vortex gives Lava Lash a chance to proc a fiery tornado that deals damage in melee range for 3 seconds. It doesn't look like the Doom Vortex animation is in yet, but it sounds like it's going to be pretty awesome. Last, let's take a closer look at the flashiest new animations you'll be getting in Legion. Doom Wind. Doom Wolves. Crash Lightning and Crackling Storms. Earthen Spike. Fury of Air. Voodoo Totem. Sundering. I'm pretty sad that Sundering seems so useless because look how cool it looks! And that's what we know so far about Enhancement Shamans in Legion. The toolkit feels pretty good to me, but they've definitely suffered a lot of utility loss from pruning. I'm surprised by how small of a role totems are in now. Let me know what you think of the shaman changes and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye!